a historic night last night, President Biden's third State of the Union. Some people, depending on who you speak with, categorize the night and the president's performance either as energetic or impassioned. Other people will say it was a partisan address or that maybe he was angry. What did you kind of take away from the evening?
Well, it's always an honor to be there. The institution that I serve in and the belief in the separation of powers is very important. It's important for our country, but it was angry. The speech was divisive. It was partisan. It didn't build hope, in my opinion, for this country, for the future of this country. You know, when you think of the State of the Union, you hope that it's about the Union. And instead, he starts off with foreign topics and things that don't necessarily relate to the strength or the well-being of our own country. And I think that, you know, he really missed the mark early on because it took him at least 30 minutes to even acknowledge the crisis that's going on at the border. And instead of talking directly to Lake and Riley's parents who are grieving the gruesome murder from an illegal immigrant of their daughter, he blames Republicans and he's throwing spears at things that really don't have a bearing on the outcome when we all know that this is a tragedy and what's going on at our southern border is affecting every community, definitely in Texas, but now we can also see that a 19-year-old college student was murdered. I thought that he could do much better. I think the President of the United States should rise above partisan politics in the State of the Union and should give every American, regardless of what party they're in, hope and to give them confidence that this is the greatest country in the world. He did not do that.
Just to stay on the president and the address for one more moment before moving on, a lot of people were looking at age and maybe can the president get through a State of the Union address? Supporters will say the president showed that he can hang around in this election cycle. What do you think?
Well, he certainly showed his ability to be angry last night. I'm not sure that that translates to the energy required to run this country, to be the beacon of freedom around the world, to give confidence to our partners and allies. But certainly we have to look at the ways that he is saying things and who's running the politics and the policy decisions inside the White House. And I think those questions are valid, and I think we do need to ask those questions. We certainly are asking them. And you know what? Forget age, forget energy, forget all that. I'm just judging him on his policy. And his policy has not helped West Texas. His policy has not helped Texans. And quite frankly, I can't really point to anything that has truly benefited the strength of our country. So if you're just judging on policy metrics, then again, I have to say that he has not done what our country needs.
You had brought up the border and Lake and Riley, and maybe some contentious moments last night when the president was talking about the border and how he would like you and your colleagues in the House to get him legislation to help secure the border. Do you think there's any middle ground between the two parties to work on legislation? What do you think needs to be done at this moment in time to help secure our southern border?
Well, I'm proud to be an author of H.R. 2, to have helped write that bill, to pass that bill, the strongest border security bill that we passed last year in May of 2023. We sent that to the Senate, and it's no surprise that Chuck Schumer threw that, in some wastebasket and hasn't looked at it since. The reality is, yes, I do want us to be able to come together. What the president is asking for is more money, and he wants more money so that he can process more migrants. In reality, the laws are on the books. He could have shut this down. There's a massive pull factor, and it's come from the White House. We need him to empower every federal agency to actually abide by the laws that are on the books. He has refused to do that.
Another topic of concern for many, especially globally, has to do with the continued war between Israel and Hamas. And the president was speaking about his intentions for the U.S. military to set up a temporary port on Gaza's coast. In your opinion, do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea, and why?
Well, look, it's never a bad idea to help humanity, to help innocent lives, to be, as Americans, helpful to people. My problem with what the president has done, not necessarily just in this instance, but in the way that he has dealt with Israel, is telling them that they have to agree to some ceasefire that is not conditions based. What we should be telling Israel is we are with you 100%. We back you up in your quest to make sure that these horrific terrorist acts never happen again. And instead, the president has not given the Israeli people that confidence. He's given them arbitrary deadlines and suspenses. And so I think it's the whole approach that I disagree with more than any one individual approach.
To stay on the court just for one moment and to play devil's advocate, by doing this, couldn't this put more of our servicemen and women in harm's way and potentially lead to a greater escalation if, God forbid, something was to happen to one of them?
Well, yes, and his approach of appeasement has done that repeatedly, whether it's with the Iranian regime, whether it's emboldening the Chinese Communist Party. Certainly in this area, we do not want our service members to take unnecessary risk or to be put at unnecessary risk. We saw that recently with 3 service members being killed in the Middle East. I think that those situations are avoidable, but you have to be strong. And that peace through strength mentality that President Ronald Reagan had has not been followed by President Biden. I've been very critical of his administration for that.
During the president's address last night, was there anything that maybe stood out to you that you say, yes, this we can work with both sides of the aisle? Maybe this idea can help West Texas. Did you come away with anything like that, sir?
I was actually sitting there listening, hoping for those types of messages. And it was at least 30 minutes before I even stood up to applaud some of the things that he talked about with regards to civil rights. And obviously, we've made a lot of progress there. Acknowledging some of that progress was good. But the overall tone of his message was so angry and divisive that it's hard to believe some of the words that he said. And I don't feel like any American came away going, you know what? Let's reach across the aisle and let's come together on this subject or that issue or this topic. And so, unfortunately, it's very difficult when he attacks American energy, when he attacks the Permian Basin, when he attacks things going on in rural America, for me, as the representative for 20 counties, to give him applause for really much of anything last night, because I don't think he rose above partisan politics. I think he got stuck in a very radical mindset from the far progressive left. And instead of getting to the center, bringing us together, telling the rest of the world that we're the greatest country on earth, he got stuck in a partisan fight, and I don't appreciate that.
One thing that many Americans are also concerned about is the economy. And new numbers that were released today from the Department of Labor Statistics says that 275,000 jobs were created in this country in February. That's higher than what some economists had thought, that it would be around 200,000. Maybe who or what do you think we can attribute this growth to last month?
Look, I'm glad that there's jobs being created. If that's true, I want to make sure that they are in West Texas. We know that in the Permian Basin that they do have a low unemployment rate, and that is wonderful, but it's because they're producing the American energy we need. The fact is, though, when they report their inflation numbers, I would challenge the administration on this. We had 15 to 18% inflation last year. Maybe it's 3% now, but it's still overall 18 to 20% what it was 2 years ago. And those are the facts. Ask any American, ask any West Texan, are you paying less for gas and groceries and for normal everyday goods now than you were just 2 years ago? And the answer is no. So they may brag about some numbers, but I want to talk about reality. And the reality is that our economy is not nearly as strong as President Biden touted it.
Speaking of reality, the State of the Union is over. There's a long way between now and November. What are your next steps moving forward to help West Texans to make sure that people in this country can be proud of the Congress?
We're focused on helping our farmers and ranchers. We're focused on helping American energy be literally the gold standard to be used around the world. We're focused on getting the economy back on track. We're focused on accountability. We don't have accountability in this country right now. I am leading the charge. We've had multiple bipartisan bills that I have led, including some energy bills, to allow us to continue to export liquefied natural gas that comes out of Midland and Odessa and the surrounding counties. I'm going to stay focused on that. But most importantly, we have got to get the border closed. We have to secure our country. That has not happened. It is a tragedy what is going on that has caused the death of constituents of mine and people like Laken Riley, and accountability needs to be had for that.
Congressman, anything I didn't ask you or bring up that you wanted to get across at all, sir?
Thank you very much for taking the time, and I appreciate you covering the subject.